Hello everyone. Are we on? Are we on? Hi everyone, it's Darren here from Beer Sweden Television. Now listen, you've called me a little bit unprepared. We are actually at the moment, as you can see, constructing what is going to be the 2011 Advent Beer Calendar, Santa's Studio. It's back by popular demand. As you can see, I've been to Just this morning. I've spent at least 150 crowns on the most expensive textiles that money can buy, but that's not really the point of why I'm actually tuning in today. As you may already have noticed, there's no Trev. Trev's currently out trying to find an elf so that we can have him in the studio with us. If anyone's ever tried to look for an elf this time of the year, you'll understand they're pretty busy and very hard to come by. But the point of me actually talking to you today is because I was actually at the Örebro Beer Festival last week. In fact, I can throw up a link to my sort of crazy 8-hour drinking session there on the blog. Let me just do that for you. Oh, blimey, that's back. And you can see there that there's one beer in particular that I drank that really kind of stuck out, and that's pretty impressive if you think that I tried some amazing beers there, including some De Moulins. But there's one beer in particular that actually sort of stuck out for me, and it's a beer that I want to talk to you about very, very quickly. I want to give you a heads up. The beer in question is this one. As you can see, I was a bit impatient. I've already started drinking it. Now listen, obviously you can't come to me, so you just sit there and I'll come to you. No zoomy zoom, I'm afraid. It's a pretty dark bottle, so it might be difficult for you to see, but I think you'll be able to see that word at the top there, Stone. Stone from the United States of America, one of the sort of legendary craft breweries over there. Stone beers, as any of you who've tried them before will know, are always huge, are always loud, and pretty much always extremely impressive. This one is no different. It's their Belgo Anise Imperial Russian Stout. Now, what is that? Well, basically Stone have actually created a new series of beers called Odd Beers for Odd Years. And what they've done is they've taken some of their sort of, shall we call them, traditional craft beers, and that's actually stretching the meaning of that word, and they sort of tried to give them a new twist. And what they've done here is they've actually added Belgian yeast to some of their sort of standard line, as it were. In fact, I reviewed the first beer out of that range, which was the Belgo Old Guardian Barley Wine, actually on the blog just a couple of weeks ago. Again, I'll just throw up a link for you there so you can read about that. This is the second out of that series, and the first time I got to try it was in Örebro. Fortunately, I managed to actually procure a bottle for review purposes only, of course, up here, and that's what I'm going to share with you now. Basically, it is their classic, shall we call it, Imperial Russian Stout. And what they've done is that they've added some Belgian yeast to it, and that's given all that kind of Belgian vibe to it. A little bit sort of clovey spiciness is probably coming through, a little bit of banana perhaps, you know, those kind of odd Belgian flavours, those yeasty sorts of notes that come through typically in Belgian beers. What they've done is they've actually created a couple of batches, as I understand it, one of the straight Russian Stout, one of the Belgoized version of it, and they've kind of blended it. I think it's roughly 50-50, I'm not sure. Warrior hops go into this, which is a classic sort of quite smooth all-round type of hop. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see. Now listen, let's get the boring stat bits over and done with first. 2,160 bottles of this are coming to Sweden on December the 1st. 83 crowns 90 is the price, and I'm telling you people, it is a steal. Big fat bottle, as you can see. So as I say, give me a heads up because I think this is going to fly off the shelves. It won't be hanging around long. Now, when you pour it, look. Again, I'll come to you. In fact, what I do, in fairness, because this has been sitting in the glass a little bit, I'll give it a little bit of air because we want to see some head on that. As you can see, big, big tan mocha head to this. I'll come to you. Can you see that, people? Look, that is pretty much the colour of the sky up here in Umeå at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's pretty dark up here, people. Now let's give it a whirl, even though it is odd, and we like odd here on Beer Sweden. Give it a whirl. Huge, massive, amounts of classic Imperial Russian Stout sort of notes. Coffee's in there, dark, sort of bit of chocolate, dark roasted malts, a little bit of espresso coming through. But of course, the aniseed that's actually added to this is flying out of the glass. So there's an awful lot of aniseed sort of flavour to it too. A little bit of sort of, or nose to it. A little bit of pumpernickel as well, you know, pumpernickel bread. Really, really interesting, complex nose. Let's try some. And just, I mean, wow. It's 10.5%, so it's obviously a very big, bold, alcoholic Imperial Russian Stout. Very typical to the style, of course. But having said that, the alcohol is not running hot in this beer at all. It's very, very, very well hidden underneath a huge mountain of chocolate, of coffee, of tar. There's a lot of licorice going through this, and of course the aniseed's there too. It is just wonderfully complex. Very dry finish actually, very sort of long, dry, bitter finish too. Although IBU wise, it's around 56 as I understand. But it really is a complex drink. I can imagine this as the ultimate cheese beer this Christmas. Really will be a fantastic thing to enjoy either at the end of a meal or actually just on its own when all the relatives are buggered off home after a long day at Christmas. You can basically sit down and reward yourself with a glass of this. Now in terms of rating, I've got to go high. I'm going 4.7 out of 5. That's one of the highest ratings that I've given a beer in a very long time. Certainly one of the highest ratings in 2011. We're going to slip that one in there. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Now listen, I'm sorry that I rushed, I'm sorry it was quick, but as you can see, we've got an awful lot of work to do. I've got to find Trev, he's got to find an elf. So until next week, when we're going to start the Advent Beer Calendar 2011, cheers and beers.